Coach, you mentioned fans in the stands. You guys got news yesterday that that wasn't going to be the case at Nippert for the remainder of this season. How tough is something like that to break to the kids to let them know that they're not going to get that experience this year?
Well, I think I didn't have to break it to them, to be honest with you. That's even sometimes the harder thing because everything is done and they see things socially before you can even address it. But it's difficult. I mean, there was definitely a little bit of a buzz from our guys, and it's a disappointment that a lot of people in our league that are and are going to continue to have fans in the stands, and I guess we're not. But for me, more than anything, I got to try to stay focused. Obviously, that's not going to affect how we prepare to beat Memphis or to play Memphis. So I got to be real careful at trying to keep my attention and my energy into one spot and things that I have control over, and that's something that we don't have a whole lot of control over. I'm not saying who does, and I don't know who does, but I think it's for our kids, it's a tough situation, especially when you go on the road and see what other people have, and you come back and you want and hope and expect maybe that, but I don't think that's going to be the case for us. I don't know why. I mean, the Bengals have them. So it's not a county thing. I guess that's above me, and I'll just keep worrying about Memphis. I think that's where I got to try and stay focused as much as possible.
Coach talking after the game about the way Desmond played. That's you had seen it in practice, and his teammates had seen it. Do you feel like he needed to see it in a game though to maybe get over some kind of hump?
I don't. I mean, the great thing about Des is he has a really, really good confidence level, and obviously that's some of those things are natural, but it comes from being a third-year starter and winning a lot of football games. But there are some things that even others around him want to be able to see, and so I think there is I don't know that it's something he had to have, but I think it does take a little bit of things off his shoulders, and he realizes that his work is paying off. Maybe not always in the way that you want it or as fast as you want it, but it will pay off as long as you're persistent and continue to keep the faith. And so I think it's great for him. I don't know that, like I said, that I would have been worried because I hadn't seen a lack of confidence by any means in him. But it's always nice to get a little bit more mojo going and get some things going, especially on the road.
Coach, you got a scouting report on both offensive and defensively for the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean we obviously they're a little bit different. Maybe a new defensive coordinator than last year. More similar probably offensively, but when you play them 2 of the last 3 games of the year, I think you at least have a pretty good grasp of personnel and at least what to expect. So I think it gives you a little bit of a head start. I think even in the off season, obviously we would pay some attention to 2 of the last 3 games that we lost and things we need to do better. So hope and believe we got a pretty good grasp on who they are and what they do based on playing them 2 of the last 3 games of the year last year.
Coach, you had a couple new faces on the offensive line on Saturday night. How did those two, and Jake Renfro and Dylan Oakman, how did those 2 young guys grade out and perform?
They did a good job. I mean, I think up front in general, I thought we did a good job. We eliminated a lot of negative yardage plays. Obviously, late in the game was where we I think kind of wore them down a little bit, and that's a tribute to those guys up front. Both Jake and Dylan, they're a part of that, and so I think they had great weeks of practice, which does nothing but give us more confidence. Obviously, we'll get some guys back this week, so it'll be unique to say how we work that thing up front. But I know we've got a lot more confidence in a lot of other guys up front. It's going to vote well for us here as we continue to roll.
Coach, when we first spoke in, June, you mentioned a failure of execution in those 2 losses last year against Memphis. Can you kind of specify what exactly needs to happen in this game Saturday?
We need to find a way to finish. I think you need to find a way to finish. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can point out of execution, but it comes down to the fourth quarter. It comes down to the last 6 minutes in both those games. Things that we pride ourselves on, being able to finish, being able to wear guys out based on how many guys we can play and how hard we want to play, and we didn't. So there are obviously different things execution-wise and playing clean-wise, especially late in the game. But what it comes down to is your ability to finish, your ability to have the mental toughness to be in one of those games that's going to come down to the last 4 to 6 minutes of the game and be able to come out on top. And 2 times last year we didn't, and both of them happened to be against Memphis.
Luke, I know you don't like to talk about the ranking, but you do have number 7 next to your name. At what point does Cincinnati deserve to be in the college football playoff conversation?
When you get to the end of the season. When you get to the end of the season, I'll be able to talk about it. But until then, all those things are great for media or great for TV shows and things like that. They don't do anything for us within our program. I shouldn't say that. Recruiting, they do a great job for as well. But truly inside the walls of our locker room, it doesn't do anything for you. So you got to be real careful. I know I wouldn't address it. I know I wouldn't talk much about it other than to make sure our guys understand that we got a long way to go. And like we say in camp, it's not always where you start, it's where you finish.
How is Majah Sanders taking another step forward this season, and what do you see his ceiling?
Well, he could play football for a long time. I mean, he can make a career of this. He really can. Not just because he has talent, because he has a passion to play. Everybody's got a dream to play in the NFL and to continue to play the game of football. But, the guys with a passion have a chance to really kind of make a career of this. And he's taken some of those next steps of, playing, with emotion but not playing emotional. And I think that's a big step for him, is be able to handle some of those adverse situations and tougher times. And, in his 3rd year here, I think the greatest thing he's done this year is being able to kind of handle some of those situations, especially on Saturdays.
You said the same for Jarrell White. Obviously an undersized guy, but man, he is in every play.
Yeah, size doesn't always matter. I know that at some point in time they're going to measure you and things like that, and you can use the old cliche, it's not the size of the dog or the fight, it's the size of the fight and the dog. But the reality is the guys that love the game, the guys that have a passion to the game, the guys that play it really hard, doesn't matter how fast they are sometimes, doesn't matter how big they are sometimes, their ability to be successful, especially on Saturdays, are evident. And Jarrell has done a phenomenal job. And he'll have to continue to do it, and he'll always have to maybe overcome some of those stereotypes based on how tall you are. But the reality is, he's 21 years old and probably not going to get any taller. And you know what? You don't have to worry about that. Just got to continue to grow and play the game the way he has done.
Coach, James obviously didn't play in 2 games last year against Memphis. How do you think he will impact the game on Saturday?
The same way he impacted, hopefully, the game this past week. Being consistent in what he's doing, being one of the 5 guys to play together. I don't think that I would say there was a glaring loss without him last year. There was, the reality is one guy doesn't make everything, but the ability for that one guy to play within the 5, especially when they're up front, is so critical. I think that's where some people don't realize. They always think the tackle's out on an island, and he is, but he's one of those 5 guys, and they're such a cog to what it is that we do, and their ability to play together, which obviously last week with 2 new guys was a big step for us, and a big step for him even as a leader, because those guys are so kind of ingrained to playing together, and they just got to continue to do that.
Can you expand on what you mean by the 5?
The 5 O-linemen. The center, the 2 guards, and the tackles.
Your training staff got a lot of TV time Saturday.
Is that a good thing?
How guys are doing?
What's that?
Any updates on how guys are going?
They're doing good.
Out of that game?
They're doing good. What else you want me to say? Yeah, exactly. They're doing good.
I could name them specifically.
That's okay. You don't have to. I'm not going to say much about it. We haven't practiced yet, so. Obviously, we got banged up a bit, and it was a physical, tough game. But I would expect that a big week like this, that everybody's going to do everything they can to get themselves back in a position where they can play on Saturday. But we'll see today.
Coach, I might get a similar answer on this one. I'm not trying to get you in trouble, I promise, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the officiating from Saturday, specifically the non-targeting call on the Dokes fumble.
I didn't spend a whole lot of time. I don't know that I was going to call the official just to get some clarification, but it is what it is. I think those guys have a really difficult time. We're making the game a lot harder for the officials based on how they're graded on every single play, and it's the speed of the game. So we all get kind of heated, and we all maybe say something during a game, but as you get back at it, it's a tough call. It's a tough situation. Personally, I don't think they should throw anybody out of a game unless it is just blatant. You saw some guys being tossed out of a game earlier last Saturday, just watching some of those games, and I think it's really a bad thing for football. But I do think that they need to be penalized just so that we can try to eliminate them. But it's so subjective to figure out exactly what it is that they're looking for. Didn't spend a whole lot of time on trying to reevaluate that because it doesn't make us any better.
Luke, you mentioned the crowd earlier at SMU. I know your mind is on a million different things on game night, but was there a point from Saturday night where you could sense that the crowd came into play, that the guys maybe fed off of it when you needed some energy?
No, I mean, obviously you're on the road, so they're against you, but I think even that is something that guys enjoy. I mean, pregame you go out there and you're warming up down in where the students are, and they're hollering and screaming at them, and our guys probably said something back to, but it's just something that you enjoy. I think they enjoy it. If not anything, I don't know that the noise or anything like that got us going. I think, but just having some people and even some of that, good lighthearted comments can get you a little bit motivated as well. Not that you should need motivation to go play a top 15 team, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it was just a better feeling that our guys kind of enjoyed.